Welcome to the Compass TV show. And I'm just super excited today because it's one of those rare opportunities where both Heather and I are here. And you're going to listen to perhaps one of those unique conversations we hold in the office that sometimes when it's always fun, someone's walking down the hall and I'm laughing and they can't see Heather and they wonder what is going on. And so with that, we're going to start with one of the interesting conversations we've been having lately is we've been talking about senior centers and how they have evolved. I mean, 24 years ago, what were the top games and what were the top activities to today and how it's changed and what we are doing to make sure we constantly change even though the seniors may not perceive that it's constantly changing. So with that, welcome, Heather.
Thanks, Barb. Did you want me to follow up on that? Yeah. So, you know, when we think of senior centers or we listen to the term senior center, I think a common assumption or a common thing that people think about is, oh, there's lots of people there perhaps in wheelchairs that are just sitting there playing bingo and we're playing cards, and there's not much more to it than that, you know? Mm-hmm. I think that was the classic senior center back in the day.
Yep.
Perhaps, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. Right. I don't know, what was the center like when you started?
Well, you probably pretty well hit the nail on the head. So the senior center of today and our senior center is not your parents' senior center. Right. It's changing. And I think one of the reasons we see it changing is, and I just gave this example this morning, my generation's coming up to that age, and the boomers were always told they'd be forever young. And when they were younger, they probably played video games. Mm-hmm. Many of them probably, I don't know how many of them have learned card games. But the question is what is going to be offered at the senior center at that point in time? It's going to be evolving and changing, and we've discovered some things.
That's right. You know, that was something that was big for me when I started a few years ago at the senior center, was that I wanted to look at programming and I wanted to take it beyond what was currently being offered. I wanted to offer beyond just the cards, the bingo, a few exercise classes. I wanted to look at how we could engage people within the community, keep them connected within their community, and just have fun through the process of aging. Right. You know, aging in society is not often looked at as a fun process, right. But you know, we can join together and have fun through that. Right. So when I look at programming, you know, everybody has so many different interests. So right. If I was to ask you what you'd like for programming, mm-hmm. It's probably very different than what
your husband
would want, or
right.
Somebody else. So when we think of programming, you know, really the sky is the limit. Like, we have to stay within our budget.
Right.
But there are so many different avenues that we can pursue.
Right.
So I guess, I was just looking at some of our numbers for our activities and how that has been changing. And
but we're not going to share
We're not going to share that. You have to come to the membership meeting next week, Tuesday. So I'm going to quiz you, and I want to know what you think is our top activity at the center. So over the last 7 months, what's the program that brings in the most numbers to the center?
Meaning the most number of participants.
Right.
And I think we are going to rattle their cages.
I think you're right.
And so I think that'll be interesting. The other thing that you commented on that we talk about a lot in the office is aging. I mean, you and I sit there, we go, what are people afraid of? I mean, aging is a natural process. It's an opportunity for more adventure. I mean, aging, what's the fear in society of aging? I mean, it's not as horrible as people perceive it to be.
Right, right. And you know, when I came into this center, I came in from a role of working at a nursing home setting, so that was a little different. You know, my experience with aging and that setting is much different than my experience with aging at the adult community center. Right. I think society as a whole puts this bad taste in our mouth about aging,
Right.
but they fail to point out the positives in regards
Right.
to aging and
Right.
how much fun we can have and how freeing it can be to age.
Right.
You can pretty much do whatever you want when you age.
Right,
When
right,
you want.
exactly. And I think you really hit that nail on the head, because we hear in society that once you retire, you're going to die. Well, my challenge to everybody out there is, once you retire, you begin a journey of adventure and fun, and you have many opportunities in front of you. It's what you choose to do.
Right.
Yes, we're all going to die, but along that journey, let's have some fun.
Right. You know, and we all will get the aches and pains, and we all will have some physical limitations along the way. We can't deny that. That is a part of aging, but we can come together and celebrate.
Right.
Yeah,
The
that
process. So that's so much fun. So that's always an interesting conversation that we have almost on a weekly basis. I can't say daily, because daily would be pushing the limits, because we don't always have that much time to discuss just the aging process. But along with that, we have some exciting programmings coming up. And September is Senior Center Month, building momentum, growing, learning, giving, connecting. So that tells me that I think the centers are pretty active.
Yeah, they are very active, and we were fortunate enough to be able to go visit. I was able to go visit one center with you this past summer, and I know you've been traveling around to different senior centers and seeing just how different senior centers are becoming around the state and even nationwide. Like we see how they're changing.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a key in moving forward in the future, is that the centers are going to need to change with the population.
Right.
Otherwise, they're not going to continue to exist.
Right. And it's going to be a delicate balance, because the other conversation that we have at our work and in the office is, we're serving 4 generations. Think about that. We're serving 4 generations. So we're serving the greatest generation, you know, the GIs, the silents, and now the boomers. We're serving 4 generations. And with Heather working there, we actually have 5 generations there. So, yes. So it's really interesting when you get that mix of people and when they grew up, and what was almost like a comfort food. What are the comfort activities for them? And you bring them into the center, and then how do you balance all of these activities out within a day, within a space, within the time? And how does that look?
How does that look?
Yeah.
Well, and I think the interesting thing with that is that we're finding that as we're engaging the boomers and bringing different generations into the building, you know, if we can get them through the door, or lately I've been trying to do some programming that is beyond our walls, because some people won't come into the senior center or the adult community center,
Right.
but they will engage with me on a trip, or
Right.
they will go with me to a location and meet me for an event.
Right.
But once we meet a few times and we build relationships,
Right.
then they're more apt to come back into the center.
Right.
And what we're seeing is they're starting to participate in other activities, such as cards, or such as bingo, or such as the classes that have been long-standing activities.
Right.
Not everybody, but some.
Right. And I think you really hit it on the nail on the head. It's about that relationship. It's about meeting them where they are at, to say, hey, you do have opportunities, but it's up to you if you want to take that opportunity. And then when they do, I mean, we have some of the most wonderful stories at the center of how someone moved in from Nebraska and someone else moved in from Ohio, and they came together at one activity, and now they're going around Marshall trying out all the restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
what a wonderful, it's a place where we can connect people that are of similar age, maybe not same likenesses. I mean, they go some places and one person absolutely would not go back there, and the next person says, can we go back next week? So it's just bringing them together around one common cause, and then they're willing to come back. And from that, then we see them going as this core group where they never met, would have known each other had they not walked through the doors at the center. And they're going to multiple activities together that are a wide range, from physical fitness to outside the building to musical entertainment in the building. It's a wide variety. And so I think that's one of the key pieces too, that once you build that relationship, then they're ready to try some more activities.
Right. Yep.
So that's just a lot of fun. So it's been fun to see that as we're trying to evolve the senior center, and I think a lot of people out there watching are going, oh, I know a senior center. And our challenge is, no, I don't think you know the senior center. It's always evolving. We have to constantly change because we have the multitude of generations. And we're hoping that some of the activities will, like we said, will
Crossover.
overlap. Like, okay, current members will say, oh, I'm going to try that new activity. And new members that like the new activity will come in and say, hey, I'm going to try some of these activities that I haven't had the opportunity to try before. And what happens is that they connect with so many more other people in our community by doing that.
Right.
So that's just a lot of fun. Let's go on to some of the fun activities that we have coming up. We're going to try to just highlight a very few because we have a problem that we tend to fill them quite quickly. But we're going to highlight a few of them that are coming up. Probably one of the things we should touch on, and this is an activity we do every year, is flu shots. And it's probably people are going, wait a second, flu shots in September? Are you kidding me? But this year it's changed.
Right. So this year we have Hy-Vee that's going to be coming out and offering our flu shots. And I made it really convenient for all of you. So if you come to lunch, we'll have the flu shots available. Or if you're going to stay for cards in the afternoon, you can just stay for cards and then get your flu shot before you leave that day. But what I'm hearing from the different pharmaceutical companies is that actually you should get your flu shot earlier this year. You should get it at least by mid-October at the very latest, because it does take 2 weeks for the flu shot to actually take effect. Meaning you need to get the shot and then it will take 2 weeks before you're immune to the flu. So yeah. Get them sooner than later. We don't need that flu bug going around.
Right. And we also hear people say, well, then it's not going to last throughout the flu season, but it is.
It is. It builds
longer
your
lasting
immunity up. So yes, it should
it'll
last.
take you through. But then we have some fun things coming up. I mean, we can hit on September, we can hit on October, we can hit on November. Let's just touch on some of the unique activities that you have coming up, both inside and outside the building.
Okay, so let's see. You brought my list.
Yep.
There's so many activities. So the end of September, we have Lauren Wolf coming back to entertain us. He provides great musical entertainment. He does a little bit of the old style country, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Usually this event fills up really quickly, and the participants just love to attend. You know,
Right.
you'll definitely be tapping your toes and sitting in your seat dancing. So.
Yeah. And sometimes he dresses in costume, and he also will take some requests. So it's just a really, really fun event, and that's on September 25th. But if we go into October, now we're going to be playing off our memories here, but if we go into October, I know we are taking a trip to a vineyard.
Yep, so in October we'll be going to the Painted Prairie Vineyard in Curry.
Yep.
Visits to vineyards and breweries have kind of been something that we've added in. Typically we'll do the vineyards in the fall so that we can see some of the fall colors.
Right.
And then the brewery trip is usually in March,
Yep.
you know, around St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to go to Painted Prairie Vineyard, which is the vineyard in Curry.
Right.
And my understanding is they just renovated their facility, and
Yeah.
we'll sample some wine and have some appetizers, and we'll just enjoy the morning.
Enjoy the morning. That'll be wonderful. And then in November, we have a very special, it seems like we're kind of getting on a theme here, but we're really not. We have Ron Skong, who is a wine connoisseur,
Yep.
if I can say it that way. And Ron, if you're listening, a shout out to you. But he'll be in November.
That's right. So I partnered up with Ron a couple years back, and we started really looking at how could we engage different cultures within the Adult Community Center. And that's one of the goals that I have for the center, is to engage different cultures and mix us up a little bit. So this November, we're going to actually do a taste of the countries. So we're going to taste different wines from different countries, and then there will be history on each country.
Right.
And wine. Ron has been phenomenal in being able to offer these programs for me.
Right.
I don't have the knowledge base that Ron has, so I'm
Right.
happy that he's able to come alongside us. Tall Grass Liquor is going to come and provide some of the wine for the wine tasting, and
Right.
we obtained our liquor license, so we're good to go.
Yeah.
And it is the day before election.
Yep. So we
So-
thought the timing was pretty good. So you'll be tired of all the political campaigns. Come down, have a glass of wine, your decision's made. So that should be good. The other thing we've been working on is we have exercise classes that have been going on a constant basis. We have exercise classes Monday through Thursday. And now in the evenings, we're trying some yoga classes in which we're working with Community Services and Amanda Beckler with.
Yep.
So maybe we can touch on some of those.
Yep, so that class actually will kick off today. It's called Gentle Yoga. Anna Marie Borbeck will be teaching that. Anna Marie is used to working with the senior population, and she's geared some of the yoga instruction towards seniors. So
Right.
yoga is a great activity to be able to, really stretch those muscles and increase your flexibility, which is really important as you age. It helps with arthritis and multiple different elements. So.
Right. And then we have a follow-up class coming in December for 3 Wednesdays, which is the
Yep.
same type of gentler yoga. So if you're not looking to do the longer session, there's a shorter session
Right.
also coming up.
Started.
So that's always kind of fun. So you can see we go from entertainment piece that we got coming up to taking tours to coming back. I mean, we not only do the bingo and the cards, but we also have games down there like Mahjong and Dominoes, and we're probably going to be looking at bringing Scrabble back again. We had that going, and there's a real interest in that. So there's a whole wide array or an adventure that they can go on. But along with that, when Heather first started, I shared with her that I had done a death cafe. And she kind of looked at me like, really?
I think it was like, oh, I'm familiar with death.
Death, yeah.
Death doesn't scare me.
It doesn't scare her, but she goes, kind of, what did you do? Yeah. More of like, we're both like, death doesn't scare us, so what did you do? So I've done a death cafe, and then I've also done an aging cafe. Basically what it is we have 12 to 20 people come in. We invite some people. We open the doors and leave it as a public invitation, like, would you like to come down and talk about death? And we had 12 to 15 people show up. We went on for 2 hours. There was no talking about this is the way to do it, you need to get this legal piece in place. It was just talking about death. How many people out there can just talk about death and have the permission to talk about death? So that was a wonderful one. And I followed up, and Heather was part of the Aging Cafe. So we just talked about aging. And what are some of your reactions to that Aging Cafe, Heather?
Yeah, that was an interesting conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think it was fun to see what the different people had to say about aging, especially some of the people that I knew from
Right.
the center that participated. There was a few that didn't even want me to mention the word aging or getting older because they just hate those words. So now I try not to even use those words around those people. But then we did engage with other cultures during that event.
Right.
And, we found some things that were similar from one culture to the next. So that was kind of fun to listen and learn on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was real interesting too. And I think the cultural piece that was real interesting is that you know what? We all age the same. There's really, truly no difference. We all age the same.
Right.
And we all deal with a lot of the same issues as we age.
Yeah.
And I think especially for many people out there, isolation is probably one of the biggest cruxes as you age. But you do have opportunities to get around that. But we thought, hey, we like these aging cafes. We like the Death Cafe. They're just intriguing. So we would like to try another cafe. And we're going to call it the MASC, or the Adult Community Center Cafe. So it's just going to be an opportunity to have a conversation around the center. Basically what happens, if you're interested, you call us up and let us know. You don't need to be a member of the center. It's just that you probably don't know anything about the center, or you have an interest in learning something, or you have a comment about the center. And so you come in and we set ground rules, basically be respectful. Everybody gets a certain amount of time to speak. And then we just open it up with one question. One question, and I'll guarantee you we'll talk for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And the conversation will, it's such an interesting process. The conversation enlightens us. It usually leaves people walking away asking us to do more of them. Although our challenge is that now that we've done this, go back and have the conversation with your family. It's amazing to me how many people will have the conversation with us as strangers, so to speak, but they won't go home and have the conversation with their son or their daughter or their spouse or their sister or their brother or their best friend. But they'll talk with us. And I think that process is really interesting.
Yeah. Did you want to touch any on the meeting last month?
Yeah.
Because that kind of ties into it, right? Okay, so last month we kind of did this during our membership meeting.
Right.
And do you want to address some of the questions?
Yeah, so I think the thing that was really interesting for us is we asked what keeps us up at night in regards to the center. And we asked that of the membership. And the things that they thought keep us up don't. Really don't. Probably the things that wake us up most often is the fact that we are always trying to think of how do we keep evolving the center, to constantly be looking at how we offer opportunities for those who are just retiring while still offering adventures for those who have been coming. And how does that mix together? And then how do we do it in the space and time that we have?
Right.
I thought that was, to me, was the most enlightening
I thought so too.
for my process.
Yeah.
Just where they thought it would go and what they thought kept us awake.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing was asking if funds were of no importance, no factor, what is it that you need to see or would like to see at the center? And some of those things were quite interesting, and probably the most interesting to me was that we needed a large space, because when we have large activities, we fill the room pretty full. And last year we overflowed into the lobby. And then they said not only a larger space, but a larger space which we could reduce down and use for multiple more programs, which I thought was pretty creative from the seniors end.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're always interested in learning on what they want, what they're wanting us to change or do differently or add in, and I love those conversations because they always bring something new to the table.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the fun thing is then we've taken them, we wrote those on yellow sticky notes, and we plastered them up right outside the office on the wall. And it's been interesting because people will go up and they'll stand there and they'll read them. And they'll go, huh, that's really interesting. And we'll say, oh, what was interesting? Because it piques our interest. It continues the conversation beyond the membership meeting, and we continue to get more input. And so that's always interesting. And I think the next membership meeting is going to be quite interesting because we just did that whole piece. That's kind of how the beginning of the Aging Cafe would begin. And we have that piece. And then we're going to throw into the mix this piece of activities and what has been coming up to the top. And that whole pot is going to get stirred. like nobody can think of. It's going to be quite an interesting conversation after these two pieces come together.
I agree.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
And so that's what we continue to work on. And I don't know if you have any further thoughts on just that evolvement of a center and what we constantly do. So. Nope.
I'm thinking on that.
Yeah.
I have lots of thoughts on that. Yeah. Stop on down to the center and we can have a conversation about that.
Because sometimes when we start another thought, we'll probably talk about it for another 20 minutes. So we're a little hesitant to open up too quickly here.
Right.
But I think it's really interesting because one of the other conversations that has happened quite frequently with a whole nother entity, people outside the building that come in, we've had people say to us, "Oh, we heard you don't have enough room here." And we're going, we look at each other, we go, "What? Did we miss something?" We go, "No, we think it's working, and it's working quite well."
Yep.
And we've learned how to tap resources within the community, and we've been going outside of the building, and that has been very productive for us. We've seen great results from that by going out and tapping into where the seniors are at, the ones that are just retiring or reaching that 65 to 70, and we're finding that they're becoming comfortable and they're coming in the doors and finding out the greatness, great programming that we have within the center.
Yeah.
And so that has been truly wonderful.
That's been fun to do the connections, and that's a way to bring a whole other group of seniors in, going out and bringing them in. So.
Right. And I think in the process, I know in the process of some of the programming that we have done, I have learned things about this community that I would never have learned had we not had some of those programs.
Yep.
I've learned things about the state capitol that I'm sure most of the people out in the audience do not know. Even those who serve, because we had the restoration people come in, and what we learned that is always up in that capitol that no one will guess. So if you're curious, you'll have to come see us. But we do know that one.
Yep.
So that's just fun.
That has been fun, yeah. And even when we recently went on the trip to the state capitol and the Hill House, and then we took in the St. Paul's Cathedral and did a picnic lunch there, and even there making the connections at each place and meeting additional people that, making the connections.
Yeah. And I think every time that we take a trip, it's really amazing. You'll have to come down and ask Heather what kind of trouble she got in at the St. Paul Cathedral. That's a story in itself, but only those who went on the trip will get to know that. But she did get in trouble, but we'll discuss that one later. But I think with that, we could go on for a long time, but I think we'll end it there, that at the center, we're constantly evolving. We're open to suggestions. We gain a lot of knowledge just from having conversations with you and as you join us on activities. But one final thought for you, and Heather and I were talking about this earlier, that there's something wrong with this picture, and for those of you who know us should be able to figure it out. So when you figure it out, come down and see us. Maybe we'll have a treat for you.